Hi everybody, welcome to my video today. So today I want to talk about some rawness and realness and vulnerability within my own story and talk about how I have rebuilt myself over and over and over again, each time acclimating to a higher bandwidth of frequency so that I could be living a life that is in alignment with my soul's desires, my soul's purpose, and everything that I have overcome in my journey in my life has assisted me in being able to lead and facilitate powerful transformation with my own clients. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Mary J. Wright. I live currently in Austria with my dog who's in the back corner there and my Irishman husband, but I'm originally from southern Alberta, Canada. And I actually was raised on a farm in a community so small you can't even call it a village. And so this allowed me to be with nature, with the big skies, with flat land, in the prairies, with my horses, with my cats, with my dogs, which was very comforting to my sensitive soul because the world outside of that little bubbled, sheltered community that I lived in was very scary to me. I was an incredibly anxiety-ridden child and very shy. I was scared of the world. And when I was 14, my family sold our farm and we moved to the great big city of Medicine Hat, which for those of you in southern Alberta, you know that it's actually a very small city. So I basically went from having a class of like 20 kids to a class of a few hundred kids. And so starting high school in that basically triggered my anxiety to the point that every day I was in the bathroom sick from my nerves. My stomach was just in absolute bits because it was just so extremely uncomfortable for me. Now, by the time I was 16, I had moved out of my parents' house. I completely went into rebellion mode from the very sheltered lifestyle that I was raised in. And I moved in with an older guy who was not good for me, which is why I moved out of my parents' house. Because they knew it. They knew that he was not good for me. And I spent 3 years in an incredibly abusive relationship, a very toxic relationship. And I was surrounded by people who violence and narcotics and breaking the law was just a regular day in the life for them. And so you can imagine this little sheltered farm prairie girl being put into that kind of environment. I was basically in self-sabotage destruction land because I had such a low opinion and value of myself that I continued to make decisions that put myself in danger, that allowed people to walk all over me and allowed people to harm me because I didn't love myself enough to see that there was anything different. So one of the things that I am most proud of myself from my story is at age 19, when I was completely broken, I somehow found the courage to get myself out of that situation, out of that relationship. And the best thing that actually came out of that relationship was Lila. There she is in the corner. Lila. Hi, Lila, say hi. No, she's having her afternoon nap. So I left that situation and I kind of went from one extreme pendulum swung to the next. So I went from like being associated and surrounded by people that were dangerous, that were very, very toxic, to living off of like mustard and pickle sandwiches because I didn't have the money for any other food. You know, I was 16, I was working full time, I was trying to get graduated from high school. I was in a hot mess express zone. I pendulum swung to white picket fence lifestyle. I had met a guy that was in the oil field, and I went from that lifestyle to now I have a $40,000 SUV on my driveway. I have a jacuzzi tub. I have a walk-in closet, and on paper, like the life just looked all pristine and prim and all good. And I was working at a bank, and I was just like trying to get my life in order. I basically swung from like a bad girl, being all rebellious, to really trying to heal myself, trying to get myself back on track in the society's version of what normalcy looks like. But in that time, I felt like there was still something missing, though it really served my healing and my journey and me. I got into personal development, began to really heal and work on myself, started taking responsibility for myself, and also healing the damage that was done during that abusive relationship that I had experienced for 3 years. So during that time, I got involved with network marketing. Haven't we all at some point in our journeys? I got involved with network marketing, and part of that was to travel down to Nashville for a conference. And I was 23 years old, and I got on my first ever plane ride and to go down to Nashville for this work conference. And it completely opened my mind. Suddenly, this like super sheltered prairie girl who was once scared of the entire world was down in Nashville talking to all sorts of different people. My mind was just blown. So I came back home and realized that the life that I was living, where I had the mortgage, I had the white picket fence lifestyle, I had this banking job, it was not actually what I wanted at all. And nobody should ever give a 22-year-old a mortgage. But, if you're listening to this from another side of the world, you're probably like, what? Why does she have a mortgage at 22? But in Alberta, that's actually normal. That's just like how the culture is conditioned to basically get you in immense amounts of debt as soon as possible so that you are pretty much enslaved to the system. That's my viewpoint anyways. I came back from this trip. I walked away from the white picket fence lifestyle. I walked away from the relationship because I had massively outgrown that relationship. It was very surface level, and there was some narcissistic tendencies that was happening in that dynamic. And I moved back in with my parents at 23 so that I could travel the world. And I was completely reborn in that chunk of time where I was completely like impassionated and thrilled by the adventures that were out there for me in talking to new people and making friends with strangers and just experiencing different cultures, experiencing different lands, different foods, different lifestyle, swimming in the ocean, which I had never seen the ocean up until I was 24 years old. So I completely deconstructed my life and rebuilt it. Now, during that time of me traveling, I was working with a coach to assist me in working through a lot of the patterns that I had been operating in most of my life, that was self-sabotaging myself, that was operating from a place of low self-worth, that was putting men on a pedestal compared to me and always seeking approval and validation from the masculine rather than being anchored in my own power. And in that time, I also was studying to become a coach myself. Now, on my travels, I met my now husband, JP. We were both in Cuba on vacation. We met on a tour bus, and he completely charmed me with his Irish accent. And I knew when I said goodbye to him that my life had just changed. I remember sitting in front of the ocean in Cuba right before I was to head back to the airport, and I just knew that the path that I was living and traveling on, I just took a diversion, and I was going to be going on a much more expansive, rapid-paced timeline. Shortly after we met, I was on vacation in Dominican, and I'm just going to insert a little bit of a disclaimer here that this could be a bit of a trigger warning for some, or this could be a bit triggering for some. While I was on vacation in Dominican with a friend, we became targets for a prostitution ring that was being ran out of the safety of our resort. We managed to flee our resort in the middle of the night at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And we were pretty much minutes away from being swallowed up into the underbelly of paradise, really. So I came home from Dominican completely in a fog, completely effed up. And I started my journey of healing from post-traumatic stress disorder. And, there's a couple birds that are on my roof right in front of me right now. Hello. um, a month after this trauma, I'm getting on a plane to fly to Europe by myself. I've never been to Europe before, to meet up with JP, this Irish man that I'd met a few months prior in Cuba. And I'd only had spent a few days with him in Cuba. So it was a pretty wild, pretty edgy thing for me to do, especially doing it right after I'd gone through a trauma. So it was a pretty intense situation for myself. But I just trusted that, like this gut instinct that we have. Lila wants to say hi. That this gut instinct that my intuition was drawing me to him. Like I could feel that there was this ancestral, ancient story between us, that it was so much more than just this life, and I was correct. So anyways, me and JP did the long distance thing for about a year, and we got engaged in Paris, and we got married, or me and Lila, my dog, moved from Canada to Austria, that's where JP lives now. That's where we live. About a year after we met. And so I was a year into recovery from post-traumatic stress disorder. In that time, I'd been very deep, dedicated to my healing and recovery. I was being trained in multiple different modalities for healing for myself, as well as so that when I was ready to officially launch my coaching business, I'd have a series of different trainings as well as life experience behind me that I could support my clients in deep and profound transformation. So we moved to Austria 3 years ago, and we got married. Me and JP got married in Spain the following year, and I had family from Canada. He had family from Ireland come out. We had people from about 7 or 8 different countries come to our wedding in Spain. It was absolutely incredible, and it was like a true dream. It was a dream come true, and this is coming from that little sheltered prairie girl that had no idea who she was, or had no idea of the magic that was in her, and to completely creating a totally different reality where it's like, hey, I want to travel the world, and we created that. I created that. And meeting JP has opened up those doors for me as well, because living here in Europe has allowed me to travel to so many countries in a short period of time. Greece, Croatia, Italy. We went to Sri Lanka for our honeymoon, Spain, all sorts of places. So in the last 3 years of being here in Austria, I have built a successful and flowing spiritual-based business in which I am supporting women in their healing, in their transformation. And in that 3-year window, I also went through deep, deep transformation within myself, because I was rapidly unraveling cultural and familial conditioning. And living abroad outside of the energetics of the land that you were raised on opens your mind, opens your consciousness, and you just look at the world through a totally different set of eyes, through a complete different lensing. So I got really good at understanding where I was limiting myself, where I was looking through my younger child, fearful self lensing, and shifting that into my expanded higher self version lensing. And I got really good at maneuvering through the energetics and reprogramming my subconscious mind so that I can confidently and powerfully stand in front of you right now, sharing the most vulnerable parts of my story, and not be freaking out about it. I mean, I was a little bit nervous. I was a bit nervous before I got on this call, but I'm always a little bit nervous before I go Facebook Live. And so, yeah, it's been an incredible adventure, and I'm so blessed, and I also recognize my privilege, but I also know that I have rebuilt myself from ashes, from the rubble, and I have allowed myself to die and rebirth multiple times so that I could create the reality that I have created now. And so all of my life experience as well as my training is why I can guide you and lead you to where you want to go, deep within yourself, to release what is no longer serving you, the fears, the limitations, the BS patterns that we have, so that you can tap into what it is that you came here to do, so that you can serve at the impact that your soul wants to serve, and so that you can create the life that your soul actually is craving. You know, that girl 6 years ago that got a mortgage at 22, she didn't know what the F she was doing. Had no idea. She didn't know herself. she had no idea, right? Like, she thought that that's what she wanted, but she didn't know herself to really know that that's what she didn't actually want. That she wanted a life of adventure, of passion, of deep soul to soul connection. And it required me to really allow myself to try new things and allow myself to let go of it all so that I could rebuild. And when we allow everything to just, collapse and dismantle around us, which is what's happening collectively right now on the planet as we speak, it allows us to rebuild ourselves in alignment with what our soul actually desires. So this is what I support clients on. And I feel that if there's anything in your life that you're desiring to really stand in your power and create something different, I am the person to guide you there. I can help guide you home to yourself to create freaking magic for yourself. So I love you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and listening to my full journey. And there's a whole big new adventure coming for my husband and I. I'm still not allowed to talk about it on social media, even though I've been leaving little breadcrumbs. It's a secret, but in a couple weeks, I'll get to get real loud about it on social media and tell you guys what our next adventure is. And I'm so excited to take you all with me because it's gonna be a fun ride. But yeah, if you feel that call, if you feel that stir, if you feel me, reach out and see what it's like to work together. I combine energy work with subconscious work, with mindset work, but I also get you to show up to your physical reality, because that's the key. If we're not showing up to our physical reality, if we're not showing up to our relationships, to ourselves, and really anchoring all the energetic shifts in, nothing's going to change. So I'll leave it on that note. Have a wonderful Thursday, everybody.